What do you say when people ask you how you like being a stepmom? We're going to talk about that today, along with why that answer matters. I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step-family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. Before we get started, I'd love to ask you for a small favor. If you enjoy the Stepmom Diaries podcast, would you go into iTunes or wherever you listen and leave me a nice review? I'm here to serve stepmoms like you, and I want to reach as many of them as possible. So having those really good reviews helps me do that. So I'm hoping you could help me and do me that small favor. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome back. I have been off for a couple of months, and I have really missed being here. I had planned to be back in May, but we went down to Texas for a friend's daughter's wedding, and I got really sick when we got back. I totally assumed it was COVID, but it wasn't. It was just a really bad head cold, and it took like 5 weeks to get rid of. So I have not been able to talk without coughing until just this week. So I have missed y'all, and I'm really glad to be back. So before I got sick, I went for my annual mammogram, and I was making conversation with the tech. And I referenced my stepdaughter. And the tech said, "Oh, you have a stepdaughter. Is it hard to be a stepmom?" And without even pausing, I said, "Yep, it sure is." Later, I thought about our conversation and the fact that my first response to someone that I didn't know, someone that I had no idea if she was in a blended family or not, was that yes, being a stepmom was really hard. Should I be leading with that answer? And I'm curious what you say when people ask if you're a stepmom and if it's really hard. I'm a stepmom and stepfamily coach, and my students have really responded to the fact that I have a positive outlook and I'm really encouraging and I'm their chief cheerleader. And I talk a lot about how I know how hard you're working as a stepmom, but I don't often talk about my journey and the fact that yes, it is still hard. So I don't know that I regret the answer to that question, because even though I've gotten to a place where I love my stepfamily life, it is still hard. There are still dynamics to navigate, and there are still lots of complicated emotions that come at me from every member of my family, starting with me. And there's still some crazy, let's be honest. We still have a high conflict relationship with my husband's ex. I still have 2 stepkids that we have complicated relationships with. But none of that stuff means that I don't still find the good in my stepmom life, or that I think I'm a bad stepmom. I know that I do the best I can. I know that my husband and I are trying our hardest every day to do what's right for us and for the stepkids. And I know you're doing the same thing. I know that it can be hard for you. I know that the dynamics can be crazy, and some days it's all you can do to get through the day, much less, look forward to things. But I'll tell you, I think the next time I'm asked if being a stepmom is hard, I think my response may be a little different. I think it might be more along the lines of, it's more complicated than being easy or hard. It is hard, but it's also awesome. If you listen regularly, which I hope you do, you've heard me talk about my blended family formula course, where I take students through 6 weeks of intensive work to understand their family dynamic so they can handle everything that's going on. One of the things that we talk about in the course is relating to your stepchildren, which can be really hard and really complicated, which brings me back to that mammogram. The tech at the mammogram appointment, after she asked if I thought being a stepmom was hard, she started to tell me a little bit about her story. She told me she was a stepmom and that she was having a really hard time. She described how her partner really wanted to get married, But the one thing she couldn't get past in their relationship was how his daughter treated her. She went into a little bit of the fact that, there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of hostility. The daughter had mini wife syndrome, all the things. And I didn't have a ton of time at the appointment to get into, giving her any advice or helping her, but I sure did feel that pain that I saw in her eyes. I really felt it. And because I think, as stepmoms, we've all been there at times, right? Our partner's a widower and had been on his own with his daughter for a while before she came along. So the daughter's not happy. And I know this is an issue that so many people deal with. Sometimes the daughter can behave like a mini wife. They want to be the only focus for their dad, and they get super jealous when someone comes along that takes that attention away. It's literally called mini wife syndrome. And no, that's not an official diagnosis. Sometimes the stepchild is suspicious about, who this new person in their dad or mom's life is and what their motives are. They may be experiencing what's called a loyalty bind, which means that they feel torn between mom and stepmom. Like if they like stepmom, they're being disloyal to mom. This is a totally natural feeling for a kid. But if their mom is high conflict, or if she intentionally coaches the kids, it can be that much worse. I distinctly remember when one of my stepkids told me that at the other house I was referred to as the step monster. I was also referred to in a pejorative way as the Queen of Windsor Road, which was the street we lived on at the time. Was I hurt hearing this? 100%. I don't know about you, but I'm actually a lot of a people pleaser. And the thought of someone not liking me really gets under my skin. I hate it. Even if it's someone I don't particularly care for. But here's the thing. Your partner's ex may never like you. They may have misconceptions about you that are not based in any kind of reality that you live in. They may say nasty things about you. And depending on the age of your stepkids and your circumstances, you may never have a close relationship with the ex or the stepkids. So, what is your reaction in these situations, and how does that color your outlook? I want to go back to one of my mantras here, and I've talked about this on the podcast. I talk about it in my course. And that is, you cannot control what anyone else does. All you can control are your actions and your reactions. So what does that look like? That looks like really thinking about things before you react. If it has gotten back to you that the ex has said something nasty, or that something nasty has been said, at the other house, are you better served getting wound up? Or is it better to roll your eyes, laugh it off, and move on? I know it is easier said than done, right? But if you can take some baby steps towards that approach, towards adopting that approach, it will help lighten your load. So I mentioned mini wife syndrome. Let's talk just a little bit about that, okay? If you haven't heard about that before, it's basically when your spouse's child thinks they're running the show, when they act more like a spouse than a daughter. I know, it sounds kind of gross, right? But it actually does happen, and it happens more often than you would think. So how do you know it's happening? There are lots of different things to look for, but a few of them are, they expect to always come in first in mom or dad's life. They are really competitive with you, even competing for physical affection sometimes. They expect their opinions to be treated just as equally as the adults in the household. They also try to monopolize their parent. If that can look like clinging to them, depending on the age, climbing on them, or engaging in like almost flirty behavior. I know I said this was kind of gross, right? Deliberately excluding you when they're making plans with their parent. And it can also look like trying to parent your spouse or parenting their siblings. So how do you address it? It's hard. It's hard, especially because your spouse may not want to see that it's happening. You may see this and a lot of other things more objectively than your spouse does. So the first hurdle is really getting them to acknowledge that it's happening. And that may mean having some hard conversations with them. Then you have to talk to your spouse about whether they're willing to take action. They might be reluctant to do that. So again, more hard conversations. So how do you cure mini wife syndrome? Well, I don't know that there's a cure per se. It's complicated and it can take a lot of time. But remember what this is at its core, okay? It's really about this child's feeling like their parents' love for you takes away from their relationship with their parent. If you think about the emotion that drives it, it's really sad, right? It is sad to think about a kid feeling like mom or dad falls in love with someone and that threatens their relationship. So, really, what you want to focus on is doing things that reinforce the fact that their mom or dad loves you, and that doesn't subtract from their relationship at all, right? So, it's really looking for things that you can do to help your spouse reinforce that with their child, giving them one on one time together. In fact, I think you should encourage it. It's really healthy for your spouse to have one on one time with their children. And I'll tell you, that is something that I have always encouraged with Craig and his kids. And a lot of it comes from the fact that I grew up with divorced parents and I grew up with a dad who remarried. And I always was looking for one on one time with him. So I know how meaningful it is to kids. And I know that the times that Craig has had one on one time with his children have been meaningful. And he's taken them on, weekend trips. He's gone out to dinner with them. So I think that it's really important to encourage that special time between parent and child. And, you can also encourage it in front of the child so that they see that you want them to have one-on-one time with their parent. They see that you're not trying to take mom or dad away from them, right? Now, the other thing is, you should also spend one-on-one time with your stepchild. And we've talked about this in previous podcast episodes. I've written on it on the site. It's really important as you try to bond with them to spend one-on-one time with them. Now, this doesn't need to feel forced. It doesn't need to feel like something that's an obligation. And it doesn't need to be something that is used as a punishment for them or is something, that they're not going to look forward to. It needs to be done in a natural way. But really, the more time that you can spend with them, it makes it harder for them to see you as a villain, right? If they know you and they have started to bond with you, they're less likely to see you as somebody that's trying to take away their parent. Now, those emotions may be there for a while. It may be hard to change those, right? But spending that one-on-one time will help establish that bond. And, when you see this sort of behavior with your stepchild and your spouse, try to not react too strongly in the moment. Try not to intervene in the moment, okay? If you can disengage when that behavior is going on, it'll make it more likely that your spouse will be in a position to actually see it and understand it and recognize that they need to get a handle on that, right? So we started out talking about, how you answer the question, is being a stepmom hard? And now we're talking about, mini wife syndrome, right? And difficult relationships with the stepchildren. How does this all relate? Well, I think this is largely an illustration of some of the difficulties of, relating to your stepchildren and some of the difficulties around being a stepmom. And it is really hard, whether you're dealing with the mini wife syndrome or you're dealing with kids that have been, manipulated or, brainwashed or alienated at the other house, or, whether you're dealing with kids that are just grieving from the loss of their parents' relationship, whether that's through divorce or death or whatever. It is difficult. It's difficult to establish that bond. It's difficult. You are coming into a situation where a family has been broken. Again, whether that's through death or divorce, there's loss there. And so the kids may still be grieving. It may take time for them to accept you. It may take time for them to like you. All of that stuff is really natural and normal. And the relationships can be really complicated. None of that means that stepmom life is bad or that stepmom life is always hard. It does mean that it can be complicated. So I think I would ask that you really think about it the next time someone asks you how stepmom life is going. Think about your answer. Think about, what your mindset is around stepmom life. Do you believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you believe that things can get better? If you don't, then maybe we need to do some mindset work. maybe it's worth really examining that outlook and seeing what's happening in your life that's making you feel hopeless. I know that when I started thinking about it, it really changed the way that I thought about being a stepmom and the way that I talk about being a stepmom. So I hope this was helpful for you today. And I want to ask again if you could do me a big favor and head over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a good review. I am here to serve you. I'm here to serve stepmoms, and I really want to reach as many stepmoms as I possibly can. So I am hoping you can help me. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.